Hello, this is Bryan Rosner with Biomed Publishing Group, and today I want to talk to you about a question that seems to be coming up over and over again, and that is, how come people would want to use both the Marshall Protocol and Rife machine therapy at the same time? Or for that matter, why would anybody want to use two therapies at the same time regardless of which therapies they are? Well, that brings us to a very important topic which I think we really need to look at, and that is that treating Lyme disease is a multifaceted task and it requires use of multiple different therapies. Now there's two reasons for this. The first reason has to do with the Lyme disease bacteria itself, and the second reason has to do with supporting the body while recovering. In my book, The Top 10 Lyme Disease Treatments, I divide this into two different topics. One is called antibacterial therapies and the other is called supportive therapies. Let's take a look at antibacterial therapies first. In my first book, Lyme Disease and Rife Machines, I compare fighting Lyme disease to fighting a war, and your treatment toolbox basically as a mini army and the Lyme disease bacteria as the enemy army. Now I understand that analogy is fairly sophomoric, but you'll see in a minute that it actually works fairly well. Now, when you are running an army, it doesn't really matter how good your snipers are, even if they're the best in the world, if you don't also have other components of the army that matter, such as tanks and helicopters and ground commanders and that type of thing. And when fighting Lyme disease, it's sort of the same way. I would consider Rife machines as the best snipers in the world. They take spirochetes out better than any other treatment that we know of, better than lots of different types of antibiotics. But that doesn't really mean that we don't need other types of treatments in our military. In fact, those other treatments are actually critical to the success of Lyme disease treatment. Now, you may be thinking that Lyme disease bacteria, yeah, they're tough and they're, a strong bacteria, but they're not really as strong as a military, and come on, they're just little microscopic bacteria. That's not actually true. Lyme disease bacteria are a lot like a military. Lyme disease bacteria form tightly packed, very organized, and very intentionally strategic colonies. And these bacterial colonies have lots of different characteristics throughout the colony. On the outside layers of the colony, you have certain types of bacteria, you have other types of bacteria packed deep within the colony. And basically there are three types of Lyme disease bacteria that make up the colony. There's a spirochete, a cell wall deficient, and a cyst form bacteria. And the Lyme disease colony is quite strategic in how it attacks the body. So for example, a Rife machine might be able to take out spirochetes that are venturing outside of the colony and spirochetes in the open bloodstream. But a Rife machine really doesn't do much for the densely packed cell wall deficient bacteria and cyst form bacteria deeper in the colonies. And that's because in order for a Rife machine to work, the object that it's working on has to be resonated. And when those bacteria are tightly packed in clumps, they're not really very open to being resonated because there's just not much structure there that the Rife machine can target. So the Marshall Protocol happens to be a treatment that works very well for really getting inside those colonies, and one of the reasons for that is that as a survival mechanism, Lyme disease bacteria have learned how to use a hormone that normally is healthy in the body, but the Lyme disease bacteria actually use this hormone against the body. This hormone is vitamin D, and when it's converted to what the bacteria converted to, it turns into immunosuppressive hormone that's sort of like a steroid. And this really allows the inflammation around the colony to keep the immune system away. And what the Marshall Protocol does is it basically sucks up all of that hormone and all of that inflammation and leaves the colony just open to attack and just wide out in the open. And you can basically think of that as a military let's say camp or military base, and the snipers can't really get in there because there's just too much protection and too much foliage and just too much layers between the snipers and the inside of the camp. But once that protection is removed, once the Marshall Protocol removes the inflammation, you can really get inside there and the snipers start to become a lot more effective. Now, the second topic that I mentioned earlier is the supportive treatments, not the antibacterial treatments, but the supportive treatments. And these are things that common sense would tell most people, although some people wouldn't have this according to common sense, but that is things like resting, eating well, a good diet, exercise, and these types of things that, hey, if you be honest, even somebody without Lyme disease wouldn't be healthy without doing those things. So how the heck can you expect to get healthy with Lyme disease if you aren't doing those things? And then a second part of the supportive therapies that are important are things that are more specific to Lyme disease that healthy people don't have to worry about, such as addressing coenzyme Q10 deficiencies, which most people don't have to worry about, but researchers have found that coenzyme Q10 in the heart of Lyme disease sufferers found in their heart organ can be 10 times lower than it should be, which can lead to a lot of the symptoms that Lyme disease sufferers have in their heart. Other supportive measures specific to Lyme disease would include magnesium supplementation, sauna therapy to detoxify the toxins that are being continually released. So this is Bryan Rosner with Biomed Publishing Group, and I hope I've given you a little bit of insight into why we might need to use multifaceted treatments to treat Lyme disease. We have to go after the bacterial colonies, and that can be quite complicated, and we also have to use supportive therapies, and that's why somebody might choose to use the Marshall protocol and Rife machines at the same time. If you want to learn more about my research, you can do so at lymebook.com, lymebook.com. And also, please remember that I am a journalist and not a doctor or physician, so this video is for informational and educational purposes only. Thanks and have a great day.